This time on the UK Brewery Project, we're looking at Alnwick. The Alnwick Brewery brand dates back to the 1840s. Thompson and Davidson, and sadly I don't have first names for them, founded and began operating the brewery from the centre of Alnwick, which is the historic capital of Northumberland. In the 1870s, some younger family members joined the business to help out, but in 1877, the brewery went into liquidation. The brewery equipment, stock and the debts, though, were all purchased by some of the Davidson family, and brewing recommenced. In 1787, they ended up selling the brewery to Mason Bros. In 1880, the new owners remodeled the brewery. So like many of the other breweries in the area were doing at that time, they went to a more structured gravity system where you start your grains at the top of the building and then work your way with the product downwards through the floor levels, meaning you finish products on the ground floor and it makes it easy to package and send on. They also sank their own borehole to provide water for the brewery, and this borehole was capable of producing 3,000 gallons, that's around 13,500 litres of water an hour. To draw this water, they had an 8 horsepower steam engine that was fitted. Beforehand, it was all laborious, and I think they may have used horses as well before that. With this steam engine, they might have also used it to help with cask lifting and filling. With this new equipment that they installed, they were able to produce 8,500 pints per brew. The Alnwick Brewery was officially registered in 1890, with a value of £60,000, which, if we adjust for inflation, is equivalent to about 8 million in today's money. At this stage, they had started to also build up a bit of a pub estate as well to sell their beers through to. Alnwick Brewery also began bottling their beers. At first, they used a local company until in 1906 they built their own facility. In the early 1900s, Alnwick Brewery was noted to be making a loss, which wouldn't have been helped by the upcoming war. Nonetheless, the brewery seemed to adapt to the changing environment and the sort of price-conscious consumers that were there, and they became a bit more realistic of a lower return was to be considered the normal in the 1920s. Then the economic turmoil hit. Now, like all breweries, they reported reduced sales and profits, and even with the government reducing the tax payable on beer in 1934, this couldn't help the brewery, and their profits continued to decline. In 1963, the brewery was in need of modernisation, but the company lacked the funding, and the decision was made to throw in the towel and instead use the brewery as a distribution centre and run mainly as a pub company. In 1978, Dryburgh of Edinburgh bought out the business for the pub estate. Now, Dryburgh themselves had been bought out in 1965 by Watney Mann, and in 1987, they would become part of Allied Lyons, who closed the Drygate Brewery and the Alnwick Brewery, and Alnwick Brewery, which was just a distribution site, obviously. In the 1990s, the brewery site was demolished before it could be listed. Now, you may be wondering, how does this all link in to the beers I have in front of me, which bear the name Alnwick Brewery? Well, when the brewery was closed, the brewery's last managing director, John Lindsay, acquired the business name. John didn't do anything with the name. However, on his death, his son Aidan found some old recipes from the brewery and decided to relaunch the business in 2003. It took until 2005 for the first Alnwick beer to be reborn, and that beer was the Alnwick IPA I have here. And I'm going to crack that one open. Let me just get my little trusty bottle opener. Put that to the side. Oh, I can already smell that. This definitely smells a traditional IPA. A lot of malt coming off it there. I'm using my Holt glass, but I'll turn it the other way not to show the branding off. You can see nice and clear, small white head on it. That's a big malty. Yeah, mainly malt coming off that. Bit of hop, but it does seem more malt forward. Let's have a taste of it. That's decent. Definitely traditional IPA style, not your modern IPA with loads of hops. It certainly feels, traditional IPA, amber colour, light hops and refreshing bitterness. That is exactly what it is. That is just how it comes across. Now, I think this was the only beer that they had for the first 6 years of their brewery, and this was being brewed at Daleside Brewery in Harrogate. It was based off the original recipe. I should also sort of say Ian had started making rum under the Alnwick rum name in 2003. So this wasn't his first dabble in making alcoholic beverages. This beer was, as I say, for 6 years just sold in bottle, but it changed in 2011 when Alnwick IPA was finally put into cask and sold to pubs. In 2012, Ian retired from the business and he fully passed over the reins of the business to David Ainsley and Chris Walwyn-James. They had joined in 2011 when the ownership of the brewery had moved over to Harry Hotspur's holdings, of which all three of them were directors. David and Chris quickly set about expanding the beer range, and they launched 7 other beers in the range, which I believe they were making at 3 different localish breweries in the area because they didn't have their own facilities. In 2014, David left the business and Ian Robinson and Keith Stevenson joined the business as directors. And all 3 of those remain to date now. But in 2014, something more important happened for Alnwick Brewery, or I should say their holding company, Harry Hotspur. They bought out the Lindisfarne Mead company, which is famous for producing mead on Holy Island at their St. Aidan's winery. Now, it just so happens I bought all of these beers at the store on Holy Island, and whilst I was there, I of course did pick up some mead. So let's get the mead out. That's the mead. Small bottle this one is. This is their dark mead. I've chilled it a bit in the fridge and you can see it's got condensation on it because I've taken it out because it shouldn't be too chilled, they say, with dark mead. Glass-wise, it's 14.5%. I'm putting it in my Jack Daniel's Honey Tennessee honey glass, only because it's honey. There we go. And also, don't want too much at this stage. All right, let's crack this open. Proper cap, isn't it, at that stage? Oh, wow. Let's pour myself a bit of this. That's a big enough pour at that stage. I will actually just chuck this over this side a bit so it's visible. Got the mead. Very sweet smelling, very sweet. It is mead, it's honey. But you can definitely smell the alcohol with it as well at that stage. Let's have a sip. That's reminds me of winter. It's very warm in. That is good. That is some good mead. I might as well give a quick history on Holy Island of Lindisfarne and the mead itself. So Holy Island is based just off the northeast coast of England by Northumberland, and you can actually access the island via a tidal causeway. So if visiting, check the tide times, and it's surprisingly quite a distance to drive from the causeway to the town on the island. You can also walk across using Pilgrim's Way. It's a crossing over the sand, but it's only available at low tide, and there's markers to show the way. And also there's little rescue places in case the tide comes back in for you to climb up and seek refuge. In 635 AD, an Irish monk, St. Aidan, chose to found his monastery on the island. And that's now a ruins which you can visit there. Aidan remained there till his death in 651. Lindisfarne also had a castle built in the 16th century, which you can also visit. It is believed that mead was produced in the island following the arrival of St. Aidan, and Lindisfarne Mead itself began production at the winery on the island in 1962. The sweetness is deceptive at that stage. It doesn't feel 14.5. It's so easy to drink at that stage. Now, I feel mead has more in common than with beer than wine. They call it made in a winery, but it's more in common with beer than wine. And well, Untapped does list mead on their app, so someone else must agree with my viewpoint at that stage. In 2018, Alnwick bought out the Walwyn Brewery, which was based just outside of Alnwick. Now, Walwyn Brewery was the name of the brewery, and the brewery that owned it was called VIP Brewery, and the beers they sold were called VIP beers. The brewery was relatively new, I'd say. It only opened in 2012. They were using a 5-barrel brewing plant, and from what I can see, they have carried on that separate VIP brewing, VIP beer brand alongside brewing their Alnwick beers there as well, and they're still produced to date. In 2019, Alnwick began producing some beers under the Holy Island brand, which you can sort of see here in front of me. And I will actually open up one of these. The reason being is it's slightly different from, this is more their traditional range. That's definitely traditional. And I was looking for my glass. There it is. That's definitely traditional. These are more modern, apart from probably the bitter and the brown ale that they have. This is the one I'm going to go for, the St. Aidan. Let's crack this open. All the ones apart from the bitter and the brown ale one are all session IPAs using hops from America or the New World, like New Zealand as well, to produce a more modern flavoured beer that's got that hop that everyone's sort of expecting. So there we go with the beer. It is clear, this one as well. Small head, definite big hop nose on it. It smells nice, still an ale, but a hoppy ale at that stage. That's quite nice. I wonder, they do say normally. So this is a single hop session. Yeah, they do quite a few single hop session ones. Yeah, so they've just used Cascade hop on this one to produce a single hop session IPA, which is good in my books. Just have a quick sip. Yeah, I do like that. Cascade is always good hop anyways though. As is a bit of a recurring theme in these videos, 2020, COVID hit. Alnwick found themselves actually with 5,000 pints of beer from casks that they were unable to sell due to lockdown. They decided to give the beer away to local residents in exchange for donations to NHS charities. I believe they put a limit of 5 litres per person because someone joked about bringing down a bathtub to fill up. They managed to raise £1,000 by this exercise. The only thing that confuses me is if they had managed to sell all 5,000 litres and only raised £1,000, that means it was people, average donation per pint was around 20 odd p. I know I'm converting litres there into pints, but yeah, it would have been just over 20p a pint people paid. That's, I don't know if that's good for the people that pay, donated, or if that's just a poor donation level, not sure. But it was for a good reason. It meant beer wasn't being wasted and people got to drink it, so there you go. In April 21, the brewery opened a tap room and a beer garden at the Walwyn Brewery. This was followed in May 2021 with their new canned beer range. I've only got one of them here. This is their table beer coming in at 3.2%, which I will just chuck on the end of the table there. I honestly could have picked up about 20 beers from their shops and some meads as well, extra, but I opted to limit myself. It was only due to the amount of whiskey and beer I was bringing back with me from Scotland already that I was like, oh, I can't fill up too much here. Let's now move on to, obviously, their beer range at this stage. So Alnwick's core beers are the Alnwick IPA, which is 4.5%. They do a bitter at 3.8%. They've got their brown ale here at 4.7. They've got a stout at 4.5. They've got a golden at 4.2, and then they've got their lager here at 4%. On the Holy Island beer side, as I said, you've got the Holy Island bitter here that comes in at 3.8. They've also got a brown, which I think is 4%. I'm not sure offhand. And then the rest are these session pale ales. So you've got your Hotspur, which is, no, that's not Hotspur. That's the one I just drank. Yeah, Hotspur is this one, which is 4.4%. And it's a traditional IPA, they say, using West Coast hops. Then you've got St. Aidan's, which is the 4% one that I said. They've got a Oswald White Blade, which is a 3.9%. And it's single hopped again. I think it's Amarillo that they're using in that one. And then St. Cuthbert is the 3.8% one that's using New Zealand hops in there. Not exactly sure which ones. On their craft canned range, they've got a lager, Amble craft lager at 4%. They've got a coffee porter at 4.8, table beer at 3.2, a double IPA at 6.1, and they've also got a fruited sour at 4.2. So you can see it's a definite shift to the more craft side with that. But this would have been their proper introduction to craft, and then full on craft with the cans under their brand. Under VIP beers, they still produce a range, and they produce, they all begin like, Village, because that's what the sort of VIP stands for. But Village Bike, which is a 4% bitter, Village Ghost, 4.5% stout, Village Copper, which is 4.2% bitter, Village Light, which is a 4% pale, English pale ale, Village Gossip, which is a low 3.2 or 3.3% bitter, and they also make a few ciders as well with it at that stage. Go back to their original one. Definitely from going to the mead for the sweetness, then across to the hops on this one, then back to here. Definitely more bitterness coming off on that beer, but that's the traditional IPA sort of style, not too hop forward, it's bitter led. So award wise, well, what can I say? That the mead has won numerous awards throughout the years that it's been sold. And they sell it over in America as well, but they brand it as Lindisfarne Original. With regards to the brewery, they state they're award winning, but I have had difficulty in narrowing down what competitions they've won. And since they have quite a few brands, I didn't see anything on the Facebook, Twitter or websites for those brands. So I can't really say what awards they have or haven't won. But I guess this brings us to the end of another UK Brewery Project. Admittedly with a little bit of difference with mead, but it's still made by them, so I count it. Oh, it tastes really good. That is lovely. I'll see you on the next episode. Take care, everyone.